Next up, I'd love to bring, as we keep Melissa on the stage, Dr. Edy Greenblatt. Dr. Edy Greenblatt, she's like the OG resilience expert. I admire her deeply. I learned so much from her. She was talking about resilience years before resilience was in vogue and the buzzword du jour. Dr. Edy, the resilience lady, talk to us about how you came to practice resilience before this was ever a popular topic on the tip of the tongue of so many people. You've been focused on resilience and have expertise in this area for more than 2 decades. Tell us about how you got started and what it is that has kept you focused on this expertise.
Well, Taryn, thank you very much. I'm honored to be here and so proud of you and the rest of the group and that the book has come out and it's really good. And by the way, I hate self-help books. I don't read inspirational, motivational stuff and I can't put the book down. So compliments to everybody. I came to resilience. Well, it depends how you look at it. So if the obvious answer, right? The obvious answer is I was teaching dancing. I was a dance anthropologist and I was dancing, teaching dancing, running dance events, attending seminars and camps where we would dance and teach 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 hours a day for days on and days off. And I ended up saying, I can't do this anymore. Like this is impossible. How do you can't keep burning yourself out physically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. So, okay. So then I started talking to a friend of mine who was a dancer and he actually ended up being the co-founder of Resilience Oasis. I said, I need to do something else. I can't keep doing the dancing thing. Like I'm done. And he said, well, you should get a PhD in organizational behavior. Well, what? He said, you're an ethnographer. Well, yeah, I'm a dance teacher. No, he said, you run restorative events. You do team effectiveness training. I said, no, I'm just earning a living. And anyway, fast forward 2 years later, and I, had a full scholarship, the PhD program at Harvard in organizational behavior. And the question was, okay, I realized that when I was running dance events and teaching people to dance, that I thought I was just teaching dancing, but from the feedback I got from thousands actually that I used to teach a week was like, well, you helped me get through the death of my daughter. Coming here helped me, right? And other people were getting cognitive benefit from it. And I realized that I was creating restorative events. And so I decided to get a PhD and figure out how to make work less damaging, because people used to come to me because work was killing them and they needed to do something fun at night or become a dancer or go dance at UCLA in a program. So that's the obvious answer. The less obvious answer is my mother became very depleted, was disabled quite young. And I spent 20 or 30 years taking care of her. And I had to figure out how to do this. And part of what happened was her injuries and her problems were, she was a concentration camp survivor and she had all kinds of things. She came as an immigrant. It was tough. That's another story. But in short, somebody's train just went off. In short, I didn't want to see what happened to her happen to everybody else, right? One bad experience at work when employers didn't understand that they were demanding too much of her and didn't give her any choices, because if she stopped going to school at night, she'd be sent back to a country that was no longer accepting, people who were democratic, people who weren't communists. So anyway, it was because I wanted to fix. I didn't want what happened to my mom to happen to anybody else. So that's sort of the secondary piece of it. So don't pick the story you like.
I mean, I like all the stories. And by the way, we have this crazy train that runs by our house periodically, but I find that it underscores the most important points. Like when someone says something and that's oh yeah, that's profound. It's like train. So I just see that as really underscoring the importance and power of what you shared. And we're going to bring up Ty Schmidt here. And as we do that, Dr. Edy, you've got this, sort of quote in the background, and it says, "Relax, we're all crazy. It's not a competition." Why is it so hard for us to restore ourselves? Why is it so hard for us to stop and do the things that we know we probably need to do to rejuvenate ourselves?
So one of the things is that we're using the wrong model to figure out you can't solve a problem if you don't have the diagnosis and the question right. So the old model is work-life balance, right? Resilience is the nice fancy word for work-life balance because we assume everybody has to work. But the problem is that the old model is work is depleting and non-work is restorative. So the goal then is to work less. The problem with that is we have to eat. The other thing is that, like family time isn't always restorative, right? Go to Disneyland at 4:00 in the afternoon one day and see if that's restorative. So the problem is that the definition is wrong. That work and non-work are on one continuum. The reality is that restoration and depletion are on another. So the way we stay resilient is we optimize what restores us and we minimize what depletes us, regardless of what you call it. So we get stuck in my book, this book, Restore Yourself. We talk about exactly how to do the analysis, right? You have to get really good at knowing the behaviors and conditions that restore and deplete you. You have to become an expert at it and know that we're all different. What restores you doesn't restore someone else, and they change over time. It's really important that you understand that what worked during COVID didn't work before COVID and during after COVID. So we have to kind of be really aware that we are changing and that we bring our own identities to what we're doing, and personalized resilience care. So, and if you want to know how things happen to me, there's some interesting stories of my oopsies along the way and how I sort of abandoned understanding that being a dancer was actually the core of what I do, and how to remember the most important thing I learned in school, which was you have to learn to dance in your own body. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, you have strengths that someone else doesn't have, and you have challenges that someone else doesn't have. And if you can get really good at dancing in your own body, it'll be all right. So we're here to help you. And thank you, Dr. Taryn, for helping all of us help more people. Love you.
Oh, thank you so much. Big kiss right back to you. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you both as featured authors and esteemed authors in this book. And I want to also bring on our third panelist for this segment, Ty Schmidt. And, really the three of you named this panel through your chapters. This panel is entitled Taking on the Storms of Life and Learning to Dance Through Difficulty. And so, Edy, you talk in your chapter about taking on the storms about dancing through difficulty, about that thread that you wove. And then also, Melissa, you were able to not only sort of resolve this incredibly traumatic and tragic experience that you had with parental abduction, but to also be able to contribute something incredibly positively to a foreign country that you are in Tunisia. And Ty, in her story, talks about how we show up for the storms of life. Hi, Ty. Thank you for joining us.
I am so excited to be here. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited that you're all here. Like, woo, we're doing this.
Like the energy, y'all. Like we are doing some exciting things. I am so inspired by everybody that's talked. Edy, you said you have to learn to dance in your own body. And oh my goodness, that is a message we all need so desperately. So yes. Thank you. Thank you, all of you, for being so inspiring. I've been over here just taking all the notes and doing all the things to capture this amazing day. So thank you, everybody.
We're so happy to have you here. And Ty, what's been really fun, and we talked about this, kind of earlier when I was interviewing Princess Stephanie as well, is this idea that like, this isn't a static story. This isn't a static book. Like, as we all wrote these chapters, we have developed and grown in the writing process. And Ty, I feel like you're someone that I've really had like a front row seat to getting to see your growth, your expansion. And so can you talk to us about, you know, your chapter and really how you began to orient around this idea of, you know, how it is that we show up for the storms of life?
Absolutely. So I think the most important thing that really gets to the root of my story is that we all deserve to be here. You deserve to be here. And there are people that battle with that every single day. They battle with just figuring out their worth. And I think it's been really cool to observe a common thread in this summit so far, which is that all the other authors have gotten back up. Like, life knocks us sideways all the time, and the thing that matters most is that you get back up. So for me, the way this comes to life is sometimes I'm perceived as doing too much, and I have to have friends tell me to slow down. But I'll tell you, like, lying in a hospital bed like I did, convinced that you're going to die like I thought, changes your brain chemistry in ways that you can't imagine. So whether your bed is a literal bed or a metaphorical one, you have to keep going. And that's why this book is so important right now more than ever, at a time when I think a lot of us really feel alone in our journey and maybe a little polarized and really afraid. We all need to seek the comfort in knowing that none of us are as alone as we think we are.
Yeah, isn't that powerful? You know, it's so easy to believe that we're the only ones facing this challenge, that nobody has ever gone through this before, that certainly if we told people what's going on, they would think differently of us and we might be ashamed. And yet when we have the courage and we draw on our vulnerability and authenticity to share our story, as all of you have, we not only pave the way for others to raise their hand and say, yeah, that's me too, but we recognize that sort of adolescent fable of being alone and the only one is categorically false.
Mm-hmm. And how, you know, my chapter is my way to rise together, all of us together in a world that does feel alone. And how do we do that? I mean, Julie talked about how we all need resilience like we need air, and we all have to be resilient about being resilient. And this book is called Triumphs of Transformation. So for me, the key to my transformation of my mind first and then my body was my STORM framework, which I talk about in the book, which involves practicing self-love, strengthening your mindset, leaning into your optimism, learning from your relationships, and checking your mindset. So that's the STORM framework that I share in the book, and it's been really cool to see how working through that framework just on a daily basis in my life has been so impactful for me, and the ability to share that with somebody and thinking about, even if it only helps just one person feel a little bit less alone in the darkness, it is so worth it for me to be able to just be vulnerable, because it is scary. It's scary to get out there and say, these things happened to me. I was in a hospital bed thinking I was dying. Like, that experience was scary, but sharing about it is even more scary. Honestly, I was breathing you have to breathe like you feel strong in these moments. And for me, I was breathing, I found before I hopped on with you ladies, that I was breathing like I do before I get on a roller coaster. I've been doing roller coasters a ton the last year or so, and I hadn't done them ever before that. So I was breathing like my body and my nervousness felt like it did before I get on a roller coaster. And it's almost like I've trained my mind in those moments to say, you know what, instead of being so nervous, I'm going to be excited. I'm going to be like pumped. I'm going to be energized. I'm going to turn that fear into fuel to do my best in this situation. So that's what I'm here to do.
Edie, I want to ask you one more question about this. And admittedly, again, it comes from, you and I having had the opportunity to dive a little bit deeper on your chapter. This idea of like walking through the storm, it isn't just a metaphor. It's certainly not a cliche. This is actually something that came up in your life relatively recently that you just felt like sort of hit you in a really powerful way. Can you talk to us about the sort of emerging theme of what that storm means for you?
So I live in Israel right now. So we've had the opportunity to have trouble in the country. So global storms. I think what we need to keep in mind is that resilience isn't a static state. Someone else said it. Okay, resilience is the ability to keep pulling yourself out of dips, and try to keep the average level of your energies up. That's the goal. Because when you get below, it's what I call it the burnout line, right? We keep going up and down. Good things happen, bad things happen, right? But when we get below the burnout line, right, the normal things that restore you don't work. And the normal things that deplete you are amplified, right? You spill coffee on your shirt and you cry, right? Normally, you would just get over it. So the trick is that you need to try to stay above, right? When there are waves, you need to stay above the water, which means you need to take care of your resilience every day, every hour, make your decisions about what you need. So we're always in a storm. It's just sometimes we're not measuring it. So keep yourself restored as much as possible, right? That's eat your meals, take your breaks, get your hugs. Don't just put everything off. It's like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. It makes everything harder.
Amazing. I want to close us out by just highlighting, Melissa, your work as a venture partner in Machine Lab Ventures. Melissa, you have really taken the expertise that you had in technology, in working with incredible global companies like Microsoft. You were able to leverage that to not only do good in a foreign country in the midst of your own storm, but also now to work with and support and mentor and pour into founders in technology, especially in health tech and fintech. You're working with women. And I think that your focus on the entrepreneurial journey and what it means to amplify people who are in this technology space is really powerful, because I think we all know that entrepreneurship also feels like a constant storm. And I didn't want us to transition without really focusing in on that work that you're doing, today in a contemporary way.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's funny. 2 years ago, I, sat down and I built this, kind of, I don't know, spreadsheet, if you will, of like, what kind of stuff have I done? What have I created, or what have I influenced? And it was, me and a couple colleagues who had worked together for quite some time. And, we put all of the companies that we'd worked with, since the year of the flood, if you will, and all of the different, founders. And what we did is we looked at, companies, countries. We looked at how much they had went on to raise and what those companies are worth now. And we put this thing together and we realized that we had worked with about 250 companies across 80 countries, raising $500 million in investment capital. And those companies are now worth a collective total of $2.7 billion. And I looked at that and I'm like, wait a second, I should be a billionaire. What the heck have I been doing? So going back to the money gal, and I apologize, I forgot her name.
Georgianne McConnell, she's our business money coach.
Yes, thank you. And I apologize. But I started thinking about, wait a second, I'm doing this wrong. Yes, I worked at amazing, companies from Microsoft to IBM, Goldman, BlackRock, but what's my end game, and how do I make sure that I'm not running around in this hamster wheel, and how do I take all these amazing things that I've learned in the past, through innovation scouting and and how do I turn that into my own thing? So I've got a what's next coming soon, so stay tuned for that. But I do venture scouting, and I'm still going to be doing venture scouting, but I got another thing cooking that's very similar. And I look at innovation, and I look at, around the world, what kind of innovation can I bring to banking sector is kind of where I'm focused now. How can I, kind of transition where we are now to the future? And a lot of that has been informed by my, travels around the world, and by my, I think, ability to be very interested in what is that what's next. We'll see if I'm going to. No, I'm not going to say that. When I'm a billionaire, which I will be,
there we go. We spoke it into existence. We spoke it into existence. The power of language.
After I started, I'm like, wait. I got to rephrase that. So yeah, thank you very much for enabling me to be part of this, and kind of enabling me and my family to share kind of our journey from, I don't know, tragedy to triumph, if you will.
I will do that. Melissa, Ty, Edy, what a joy to have you here today. You are powerhouse women. You have learned to dance through the difficulty. You have shown up in the midst of the storm, and you're also helping other people navigating the storms that they are in currently, as well as be prepared for the storms that will ultimately come. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Taryn. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Taryn. You're amazing.
You're amazing.